How to do friendships. So, my best friend when I was 5 years old was TJ and Michael. TJ and Michael lived down the street from me in the apartment complex that we lived at the time. It was like a townhomes. That's what it was like. They call it townhomes. So it's like apartments, but they all have an individual entrance. Um, and Yeah, we were poor. But there were some kids that lived down the street, TJ and Michael. The only reason they were my friends is because they lived down the street and they were my age. And they came as a pair. So they were my best friends because they were brothers. If one came out, they both came out. And that was how life was at five. And then in first grade at 6 years old, I had a new friend, a best friend named Kevin Liu. He was in my class. We bonded over our love for Ninja Turtles. We bonded over our love for Ninja Turtles. In second grade, um, I don't remember who my best friend was, but I do remember around fourth grade, I became friends with Brandon Hines. Okay. So Brandon Hines became one of my best friends. And Brandon Hines, unlike other best friends that I've had before, Brandon Hines doesn't he's not caring. You know what I mean? Like he's not the lovey, touchy-feely type friend. He's the kick it, have a good time, laugh type friend. He's hilarious. He has a great sense of humor. He was always playing practical jokes. He's got brother energy because he had an older brother, so his older brother would pick on him, so he knew all the good tricks, like how to pick on me or whatever, like in a fun way. It's like if we're walking down the street and we walk past like a doorway or something like that, he would push me, you know, into the doorway or something like that. Like he knew how to just do all those little things. But you couldn't trust Brandon with any personal information. That was demonstrated by the time that he asked me, it's like, hey man, who do you like? And we're just playing basketball. And I'm like, I can't tell you, I can't tell you. He's like, come on, tell me who you like. If you don't know what that means, it's like, what girl do you have a crush on? And finally, I'm like, it's my best friend. Let me go ahead and just say I was a little shy. I was like, we were out on the playground. I said, Jennifer Ritchie. Brandon did this. He looked at me and that fast, he ran to Jennifer Ritchie immediately, telling my secret crush immediately that I liked her. Like the trust level with Brandon was zero. We could not share feelings. We could not be intimate. He thought that that was funny. To me, it's funny in retrospect, but at the time, I'm just like, bro, like why would you do that? Later on, I had a buddy named Andy Stenberg, who's my best friend, a solid fifth grade to eighth grade best friend, Andy Stenberg. We did a 4 year stint of being best buddies. I would get to go over his house. Andy Stenberg was a solid best friend, just a great guy. With my ADHD, I had no idea what was going on in class. So he would sit next to me, and then when the teacher would call on me, he didn't have ADHD, so he knew what was happening. He would just point in the book to the answer I was supposed to say. So I'd be off like daydreaming about something, and then I just hear Roman, and I'm like, whoa, what's going on? What's happening? I have no idea what subject we're talking about. I'm gone. And then he would just like have his book, and then he would just do like that, and I would just read the thing he pointed at, and that would satisfy the teacher. And so he was a good, solid best friend. So over the years, I've had many different best friends, right? And then when I became an adult, there was times I just didn't have a best friend, right? Sometimes you have them because of proximity, and sometimes that's just not feasible. At times I would say my wife was my best friend. So it just depends on what's happening in your life. I would say right now I don't have a bestie or anything like that. That's okay, right? It's something that comes and goes. Sometimes we don't know that. As trauma survivors, we have this idea or a fantasy of friendship, and we think we're supposed to have a best friend, or we think we're supposed to have a group of friends. And so I talk to a lot of trauma survivors who are unhappy with their friendship situation because they feel like they don't have as many friends as they should have, but there is no should. There is no should. So they're making should statements, basically, which is a cognitive distortion in feeling like they should have at least three good friends. But all of that is just making things up, right? So how do we do friendship? How do we get friends, keep friends? And how do we handle it with complex trauma? It affects the way we view friendships because we have a tattered sense of self as is, and a tattered sense of relationships from the trauma that we've experienced. So, what I'm going to be doing is answering some frequently asked questions about friendships. We're going to answer some frequently asked questions about friendships and how to do friendships in general. One of the questions I got recently from a survivor I was working with is it reasonable to expect that your friend is there for you the way you're there for them? The survivor was upset because they felt like they would go out of their way to do things for this friend. They would be there for the friend if they ever needed anything, if they ever called on them for anything. But now one day when the survivor felt like they needed something and they called out, reached out to their friend was just kind of, yeah, I'm sorry, I really can't help you with that. Just shut them down and wasn't there for them. So they asked me, is it reasonable to expect that my friend is there for me the way I'm there for them? I think the answer could surprise some survivors. Um, we need to get our mind out of this reciprocity mindset when it comes to friendships, meaning exactly as I do is as you will do. Specifically because we can get into engaging in covert contracts. A covert contract is where you don't actually tell someone what your expectations of them are, but you have the expectations and you're hoping they'll just know what the expectations are based on your actions. So because you're uh, helping them with their housework, you're hoping that they will just help you with your housework when you need it too. Does that make sense? And so then you get upset when you ask them for help with your housework and then they don't help you. But, ma'am, sir, you are in the wrong in your thinking. It could seem like if I help them with their housework, then they should help me with my housework. If I help them with their kids, they should help me with my kids, because have this reciprocity, universality mindset. But none of this is real. You're just making up covert contracts in your head. So no, you should not expect that your friend will do for you exactly what you did for them. Again, no, that is an unrealistic, inappropriate expectation. In general, expectations are not going to help you. So let's just take expectations, crumple them up, let's throw them in the garbage. Let's expect nothing of no one. And then we can't be disappointed. Okay, so we're not going to expect anything of anyone. What we do have are standards. Standards are here's what I need from a person who's going to be my friend. This is how they qualify to be a friend or not. So you have to look at people in terms of do they qualify or do they not qualify? That's standards. Does that make sense? Without any expectation on it, the standard, you're able to dispassionately, non emotionally evaluate if a person qualifies. So ask yourself that first is okay, I did this for them. Now I need something from them and they didn't do it. Are they still within my standards for a friend? Do I feel like they're meeting my standard as a friend? So first evaluate that. Um, Next, understand that friendships are transactional. All relationships are transactional. That's important for the notes. It's difficult for survivors to embrace that friendships are transactional or all relationships are transactional because we grow up sometimes with the thoughts that it's just kind of like about love. If you just give the love, then you're just going to get the love. But that's a covert contract. Just because you give love doesn't mean you can expect that you're going to get the love back. Relationships are transactional in that what we're doing, the basis of a friendship is that you found another human that has resources that you appreciate, that are important to you. That's the benefit of a relationship. They they have resources that are important to you. You have resources that are important to them, and you're making an exchange. We don't you normally talk about that, and that's fine because it could be a little awkward to talk about that anyway. But that's what it really is. That's what a friendship is. You meet the guy down the street, he's got a great grill. He likes you because you're funny. You're exchanging resources. You guys spend Friday nights together around his grill. You're telling jokes. This is a friendship. That's how friendship works. Shallow as it sounds, you like that he has a grill and he likes that you're funny. There's usually multiple things, but that's how a friendship actually works. He has something you like, you have something he likes. Sometimes we don't even know what it is our friends like about us, right? I've had that situation. There's people who've liked me, and I'm just kind of like, I'm not even sure what it is they see in me. I'm not sure what it is they want from me. I don't know. So all I can do is just keep showing up authentically as myself. And if they don't want me there anymore, then no problem. Again, we should be dispassionate. Does that make sense? So, can we expect that someone else will do for us what we do for them? No. You have the grill, I bring the funny. Just because you grill doesn't mean I will grill. Just because I funny doesn't mean you funny. Do you understand? So, what we're looking at is what do we feel is an even exchange? What do we feel is an even exchange? Then you're good. If you feel comfortable with the fact that this friend provides you with someone to talk to, and you feel that in exchange, babysitting for them or washing their car or whatever it is you bring to the table is a good exchange, then you're good. The moment you feel like it's not even, and you feel like the exchange is asking more of you than you feel comfortable giving, or you're not getting anything back in return that feels commensurate, then you have to address that. And you address that either by setting a boundary or expressing a standard. So you let them know what it is you want, or you just leave, which a lot of times is appropriate. You just pull back access to your resources a bit, or you leave entirely. So you can do it in a gradual manner. Does that make sense? Just to give a quick example, let's say I have a friendship with someone who plays basketball with me every weekend. But over time, they stop actually playing basketball and they just come and they just watch me play. Now I'm not enjoying the relationship as much anymore because originally I liked that he played basketball with me. And so now that I'm not feeling comfortable with what I'm getting out of this relationship, which is just him watching me play, I need to address it. And I'm either going to address it by letting him know, hey, bro, if you're going to come with me, then you need to play. That's expressing my standard or setting a boundary. Make sense? Or I can withdraw access to my resources by deciding, you know what, I'm going to go play basketball somewhere else. I'm going to go call someone else to play basketball. I'm not going to call him anymore, or I'm just going to call him less often. That's withdrawing access to my resources, commensurate to what will feel good for me. Does that make sense? Great. You're going to have questions about friendships. Hold the questions. I want the questions. We're going to get to them. Okay. So another question that comes up is with trust and vulnerability. How can I tell that someone is trustworthy? How can I tell that someone is trustworthy? So here's the answer with that. You can't tell if someone is trustworthy. Stop worrying about that. What you're actually doing is trying to read a person's thoughts, heart, intentions, mind. We cannot always know what their thought, heart, intentions, and mind is. Yesterday, they may have been trustworthy, and then today they may not be. Does that make sense? So it's not about reading or knowing or being able to tell if someone is trustworthy. That's not what friendship is about. What I need you to do is just adjust your actions accordingly. So trust is the decision, the choice to make yourself vulnerable. So all you're going to do is adjust your vulnerability according to their actions. You're going to adjust your vulnerability according to their actions. Since trust is an investment, and we have to apply investment terms, which means that you're not going to invest more than you can afford to lose. Okay, and I'll illustrate this to make it more understandable. Okay, so let's say I have a group of friends, and let's say we do brunch. These are my brunch friends. Okay, it's not my job to figure out if I can trust my brunch friends. That's going to be a waste of time, effort, and resources. My job is just to adjust the amount of vulnerability and trust I'm giving them according to their actions and according to what I can afford. So let's say, for instance, I like to take my wallet out of my pocket because it's uncomfortable and I like to set it out on the table at brunch. Okay. Now, can I trust them? That's not what I'm trying to figure out. What I just need to do is observe their actions and adjust accordingly. So if I notice when I set my wallet on the table, someone kind of makes comments about it, that may make me feel a little uncomfortable, and I might decide that I'm going to keep my eye on the wallet or keep it close to me, right? And not leave it there on the table and go to the bathroom. If I notice someone has ever touched it or touched any of my belongings, I might move my wallet closer to me or decide not to even put it on the table. You see, I'm adjusting my vulnerability according to the actions that I'm actually observing in this person in this particular situation. Does that make sense? We have to trust somewhat. So you're going to make the first move of making yourself vulnerable on some level in every relationship because trust is the currency of a relationship. So in every relationship, you're going forward and making yourself somewhat vulnerable. But you got to pull back that vulnerability when you recognize that due to certain actions, it wouldn't be a wise investment anymore. Does that make sense? Another question that comes up is how do I know if someone genuinely cares about me or if they're just using me? How do I know if someone genuinely cares about me? Okay. Again, you should not be worried about whether someone genuinely cares about you. That should not be your concern because we don't have the ability to read minds, hearts, and intentions. So it's not your concern, do my friends care about me? In fact, that's not even what friendships are about. It's not about having people that genuinely care for you. I know that could sound a little confusing because many trauma survivors feel like the whole purpose of having friends is to have people in your life that genuinely care about you. But that is a misconception. It is your job to care for you. It is your job to care for you, not ours. Not ours. It is not your job to look for friends to care for you. You're going to sabotage your relationships if you make it about how much you guys make me feel like you care for me. Your friends are going to leave you. You're going to lose these friendships. When you start, that doesn't make me feel cared for. You didn't care for me. I don't know. How do I know if you care for me? You don't seem like you care. Your friendship, you probably maybe have had this situation before. They're going to fall apart because Every other human is limited in their capacity to care for other humans. So we all have to focus on our primary responsibility of care, and that is the duty of care to ourselves. Okay? So don't seek care from your friends. Seek a equitable transaction. That's what you're seeking from your friends. I like that these friends on Saturday mornings are available to go skiing with me. That's what I like about them. That's what you're looking for. I like that they go skiing with me. They seem to like my company. We're good. Do I care if they genuinely care for me? I don't know if they care for me. That's not important because I can't read their heart and their mind and their intentions. So instead of worrying about that, I worry, do I care for me? Yes, I care for me. Good. Then what am I not going to let happen? I'm not going to let anyone mistreat me. And so if they start acting in a way that feels like mistreatment, if they start treating me in a way that I don't like, I'm going to remove myself as I would if I were caring for a small child. Does that make sense? You don't know whether someone cares about you. No, yes, people may do things and say things and act in a way that does make you feel cared for, and that's great. If you get that, great. It's a bonus. You don't seek it. Stop seeking care outside of yourself. Don't do that. Again, if you receive it, it's great. But the people who are your friends based on proximity, right? You have friends in your church, in your congregation. Why? Because they're in your same church or congregation. That's why they're your friends. They got the same goals as you and they're there. Every time you show up, they're there. And so you make friends with them. You may relate on a certain level, have a similar way of thinking, seeing the world, talking, whatever. And now you're exchanging intangible resources with one another and you have a friendship. It's not deeper than that with all the, but they genuinely care for me. Hmm, you don't know. And to keep you from getting hurt, don't make it about that. Don't worry about that. Again, if you care, show it. Great. If they show care to you, beautiful. Beautiful. And yes, ironically, when we stop acting like we need the care, we actually start having more caring relationships. When you stop showing up as desperate for the care of someone else, do you guys care about me? I need the care. Then it allows people to feel free around you because you're not desperate and you seem to just care for yourself. They feel like they can be close to you because it's like, oh man, this person's cool, right? That's what it means when they're cool. It's like, oh, they're cool. I like them. What does cool mean? It's like we use that term to mean like they're not hyper and anxious and like pressuring me and making me feel uncomfortable. Nothing's going to make me feel more uncomfortable than a friend who's constantly wants more. Don't be that person. Don't be that person. Just enjoy friendships for what they are. Whatever they give you, enjoy it, accept it. If it's less than your standard, then walk away with no dispassionately, no anger, no bitterness, no resentment. They don't owe you anything. Just walk away. Just walk away. Does that make sense?